Welcome to Test Prep Central. Today we're working in Calculator Workshop 13, One Variable Statistics. In the first example, we're asked to calculate the mean, the median, and the standard deviation. These are all one variable statistics. So let's start by putting data into list 1. I will clear my memory so that my lists are all cleared and ready to go. So let's go to Stat Enter, and list 1 will type the numbers that appear in example 1. Okay, it says I'm on 9, so let's count and make sure I have all the points. -3, 2, I do not have a point. So let's go back up here and see if I can insert. Or actually, I don't need to insert. I'm just going to put that 0 at the bottom. It won't matter the order because the data doesn't have to be in order. So let's see if we have it all. -3, 2, I have my 0 down here. 2, -1, 5, 4, -2, and 3. So now I have 10 down here, meaning there's 9 points above. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, that is correct. All right, now we're going to calculate one variable statistic. So I'm going to go out to my home screen, second mode, and then I'm going to type stat, and then go right to calc. And we're going to choose 1 for one variable statistics, and then enter. And this list has quite a few statistics. The 3 we care about are the mean, the median, and the standard deviation. Okay, X bar is how you pronounce this. This first number in the list is actually your mean, which is your arithmetic average. Like if you added all the numbers and divided by 9, you would get this number. So the first number is your mean. The standard deviation, my students told me this. I think that's pretty clever, but this looks like a whistle. It's actually a lowercase sigma, but it looks like a whistle. So I'll look for this number, and this number, 2.6, approximately 2.601 is what I put in your handout. This is called your standard deviation, and this is a measure of how spread out your data is. And then the last one is your median, which you cannot see on this screen. So use your down arrow to scroll down, and you'll see some more numbers on this list. Your minimum, your maximum, your median is MED. So the median for this set of data is 2. All right, so let's use that, and let's continue on with example 2. And we're going to go beyond just finding one variable stats to looking at a box and whisker plot for some data. All right, so the next set of data, let's go to stat enter. All right, I'm going to type over. I've got -3 and then 5 and then 8 and then 1, 2, 4, 7, 6, -1, 2, and -7. Okay, it says 12 here, which means I should have 11 points. So let's make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Good. And that you'll notice I'm counting. I do this pretty much anytime I enter a list to make sure I've not left a data point out, because that is honestly the most common error on any problem that requires lists. All right, let's move on and type turn on our stat plots. So we're going to go to second y equals, enter, we'll turn them on. Now the type is going to be a box and whisker plot. So go down to type and go over, and I'm going to choose the one next to last. We'll talk about this one here. This is actually a box and whisker plot too, but I'm going to do this one for this problem and type enter, and it will default to list 1. So that's good. We're not going to change that. Now, we do need to turn our axes off for this problem. You don't really use them, or at least I don't. You can use them if you want to look at your x-axis. Sometimes it is helpful, but for this problem, I don't really want them. So I'm going to turn off my axis. So if you go to second zoom and scroll down to axis, it gives you the colors. If you're in the color calculator, the older models just say on and off, but if you scroll to the right, it takes longer. You should probably scroll to the left. You're going to get off as one of your choices. So just put it on off and that will turn off your axis. I don't want the grid line either. So if your grid lines are on, you may want to turn those off as well. All right, so let's go to the window. Now the window that I'm choosing for this problem, my x is lower than my lowest x, and my x max is higher than my highest x, and my x's are basically my numbers because I don't have any y variables here. The y values don't really matter, so I just usually go 0 to 10, but really they don't matter because we've turned off our axes. You're not even going to see any tick marks or any lines or any of that anyway. All right, so when I type graph, there's my box and whisker plot. Now, I don't have any kind of reference here, so this is not that helpful. But once you hit trace, you'll see that you do have the information that you need on the graph. The trace button is going to go, I guess it usually goes to the median first, I'm not sure, but the median is 2, it's telling you this value. And when you go left, see it's going to go to Q1, quartile 1 is -1. If you go all the way to the left, it'll show you the minimum is -7. And so just continue going left and right, and you can see all these important numbers that are in your box and whisker plot, and then you can create this yourself. Now what's interesting is you can also do zoom and then 9, which is zoom stat, and it will automatically set a window for you. So when I type enter, it sets my window, and look at that. This is what it set. It's real close to what we did, so you can hardly tell the difference. But zoom stat is another way to set a window for any set of statistics. All right, the minimum value was -7. So if you go to trace, you can see -7. The Q1 is -1. The median was 2. The Q3 was 6, and the max was 8. Okay, the last example we're going to do together, we're going to compare 2 sets at the same time. So go back to stat enter, and this time I'm going to clear my list. So go up to list 1 and type clear enter, never hit delete, only clear. Type in your x values, or these aren't just x values, this is just list 1. Not really using x's and y's at all in these problems. Okay, so that says 10, so let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is correct. So let's go to list 2 and let's type in set 2. Okay, so -1, 0, 2, 9, 0, -2, 1, -1, 1. Okay, it looks like I have everything. All right, now we're going to go turn on plot 1. This should be on already if you haven't cleared your memory. This time, I'm going to choose a box plot with outliers. So if you'll go down to type, the one with outliers has the 2 dots. It's this one. So type enter, and this will display outliers if there are any outliers. If there aren't, it'll look just like the ordinary box plot here. So really, you could always use that one. It will work the same as this one. It will just show the outliers. Okay, and then the next one, we're going to turn on plot 2. And again, we're going to choose box plot with outliers. So second y equals, go down to 2, enter twice to turn it on. Let's go down to the type and choose box plot with outliers. We don't want list 1 because list 1, remember, was the other plot. So we're doing list 2 for this one. So type second 2 to make that list 2. All right, and then what I like to do is go back to second y equals and double check. Okay, see, this did not say list 2, and I don't know why that does that, but I often have that happen. So let's go down to and try again. So I want to change this to list 2, second 2, and then I'm going to get off that list. That's probably why it's not setting it. All right, and then we'll do second y equal, and now it's working. See, list 1 on this one and list 2 on this one. Now, it doesn't matter what mark you're picking because you're not going to have a mark. You're going to have a box plot. I guess your outliers will look like this, but that's the only thing the mark's there for, so that won't matter. All right, now your window for this set of data, I believe, is the same. So, well, no, it's not. Let's go to window. We want this to go from -3, that's below the lowest value we have in a table, up to 10. That's above the highest value in either table. It doesn't really matter what you put for y's because you're not really using the y's. Now notice my axes are still turned off and my grid is turned off. If you want to turn your axes back on, I'll do that in a minute so you can see it. It does put a nice axis at the bottom of the screen that you can kind of look at, but let's go ahead and graph and see what we got. All right, so now you see 2 separate box plots. The one at the bottom has an outlier. That's what this point is. It's way higher than the other data point, so we call these outliers. When you type trace, it's going to go through and give you the minimum on the first graph. To get to the second graph, or plot 2, arrow down and it'll jump down to the second graph, and then you can go left and right and you can see this outlier. See, there's the 2. If you took out the outlier, the max would be 2, but with the outlier, the max is 9. All right, so I've listed out all the information there. Let's go ahead and do something here that's not in your handout. I want to turn on the x-axis just to show you what that looks like. So second zoom, the axes are off. So I'm going to scroll down here and make these, well, you can make them any color you want if you've got this calculator, but I'll do dark gray. I believe that's the default color. All right, so when I hit graph, now you see the axes. But see, now do you see why I turn them off? I don't necessarily want that in the middle of my box plot, but you're definitely welcome to leave them on. They don't hurt anything. It's just the way it looks. All right, finally, we do need to calculate one variable stats for each of our sets of data. So I'm going to go back to second mode to get out of there and type stat, calc, 1, enter 3 times. And these are my one variable stats, and I've listed these out in your handout. So the mean is the 3.889. The standard deviation is 3.54. If you scroll down, the median is 4. And then when you do the second set, it's stat, calc, 1. Now here's where we have to make a change. Don't just type enter. You have to change list 1 to list 2. So do second 2 to change your list. And then when you type enter, it's going to give you your data for your second set. So your mean is 1. Your standard deviation is 3.055. And then when you scroll down, the median is 0. Now, the standard deviation is a measure of spread. So the standard deviation for the first set was larger, or no, the standard deviation for the first set was 3.5. The second set had a standard deviation of 3.05. So the first set has a greater spread than the second set. And also the mean for the first set was greater than the mean for the second set. In fact, it's a lot greater. You can kind of tell by the look of the graph. All the points are way left on that second graph except for the outlier. So the mean's much higher for the first one. The IQR we haven't talked about. There's not a button. It's not going to display that value in your calculator. You have to calculate that yourself. The IQR is called the interquartile range, and all you do is subtract the Q3, which is here 1.5, and the Q1, which is -1. So let's go back to the graph and I'll show you what I mean. If you type trace, the Q1 is the 0.5, so when you go there and then over here to the 7.5, subtract those two numbers to get the IQR. That's basically the width of this box. And so this IQR is way bigger because this box width is way larger. And then the IQR here is much smaller because the box width is much smaller. All right, so those are one variable stats. Remember to read your helpful hints, and don't forget the best way to learn your calculator is to practice. So until we meet again, practice, practice, practice.